Welcome to Exploring Ways to Wellness. I'm your host, Sarah, and today's episode came about in a rather interesting way. After our mindfulness episode a few weeks ago, I received a message from Carle on Facebook pointing out that traditional mindfulness practices can present unique challenges for people with neurodiversity. I was immediately intrigued and knew this perspective needed to be shared. Many wellness practices like meditation and mindfulness can include visualization techniques. But what happens if you can't visualize? Today, Carle shares her journey as a neurodivergent individual navigating wellness practices. She's discovered aphantasia, the inability to form mental images, which is common in people with ADHD and autism. She'll share how this affected her experiences with mindfulness and the adaptations that she found that actually work. Whether you struggle with visualization yourself or are simply curious with different approaches to wellness, this conversation offers valuable insights into making wellness practices accessible for everyone. Let's dive in. Welcome, Carle. Carle has come to us today with her insight into how neurodiversity affects her experience of wellness practices. So thank you so much for joining us, Carle.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on, Carle. Would you like to start by giving us a little bit of background and how you have approached wellness and found that you've needed to change techniques or things that have worked or haven't worked?
Yeah, of course. So, I was actually quite late diagnosed as autistic and with ADHD, and I tried lots of things over the years in regards to sort of wellness and health, relaxation, things like that. Even CBT, everything, and I couldn't get anything to sort of really work and help for me. And so I always liked mindfulness. And as hard as I tried, when you're starting to relax, and I went to so many different sort of mindfulness practitioners. I tried reflexology as well and tried to do things like that. When I close my eyes, I always lose focus. And I know the main thing is to sort of draw yourself back into the room, no judgment, not to worry about your mind drifting off. But I could never picture anything in my mind. And I couldn't understand how everyone else could just come out so relaxed and focus and feel so refreshed when I just literally come out and my mind would be in chaos. And I just
Right.
couldn't understand what was it about me. And then I learned about something called aphantasia, and it's where it's quite common, more common in people with neurodiversity, so ADHD, autism specifically. And it's where when you close your eyes, um, I didn't realize that some people can imagine like a photograph, almost like looking at a photograph. Not everybody, obviously, I'm not a doctor, but it's a massive scale. Like when you close your eyes, some people they can picture perhaps a black and white beach or somewhere, a safe place they want to be. I could never imagine anything. Like literally it was just black. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, what do people think of when they're describing this picture? And so once I came across this term and I spoke to some family and friends, people were explaining to me that they close their eyes and they can see like a full memory, a full picture, and like picture themselves on a lovely beach. And I was thinking, why can't I do that? And then I learned that it was a common thing with neurodiversity. And so once I kind of realized that, it first of all, it made me relax a bit more in the mindfulness.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course, because otherwise you're
Yeah.
questioning, is there something wrong with me?
I
And
was thinking, what is it that why can't I picture a nice relaxing space and focus on, I mean, obviously when it's like focusing on sounds and smells like that was okay, apart from like my attention being drawn off somewhere else. But yeah, the actual picturing something, or even like your favorite memory to really relax and draw you back in, I just couldn't picture it.
actually, with
It
visualizations, I have heard that that's possibly more of an issue
yeah.
than than you might
Mm,
think, because now when I've gone along to particularly online meditations and things where they have included
yeah.
visualization, I have noticed that people have started addressing
Yes.
that and saying, if you can't visualize, imagine that you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
or pretend that you
yeah,
can or something like that. So I think it is something that people are starting to
yeah,
be a bit more aware of, that it's not this
yeah,
assumption that if you say visualize this or imagine that, that someone can immediately get these pictures in their
yeah,
mind. And I guess there's that feeling, isn't there, of I don't want to admit to it because everybody else seems to be
yeah,
able to do it. And what does that mean about me? And the whole point is that these techniques are supposed to help you
yeah.
relax, and that can have the opposite effect.
That's what I found, and my daughter struggles a lot with anxiety, and so went down the mindfulness path with her, and I thought it would be really helpful, and she kept saying to me, "Well, no, I can't do it." And even though I knew I couldn't picture, I thought, "Well, maybe I'm just not doing it right, surely she must be doing it right." But she was like, "No, I can't do it. I can't do it. It doesn't work." And then, yeah, the more we read, obviously, about the aphantasia, we sort of realized, and you can actually find online sort of pictures of varying colors of the same picture. You can look at the example and see if, like, basically you see nothing. It's just a black screen when you close your eyes, to like a full color picture. And there's like a scale of how much color you can see on it. And that was really good. And I really liked that. And I found it and showed my daughter. And we could see that we were actually like different parts on the scale, but still not like full bright color, imagining yourself on a lovely beach sort of thing. So that was really interesting. And we both were still looking for something like that, because although it hadn't really worked how I wanted, I loved the feeling of mindfulness, and I could do it when I would use my other senses. So, when you relax, and if I sort of focused on squeezing certain muscles and relaxing, if I did it that way, I could focus a bit more, as long as I didn't use the visualization. And we happened to go to a yoga class, and we'd been to quite a few before. Um, we had tried lots of different yoga classes, and we happened upon this one. And it just so happened actually that the lady was covering for someone else. We did her yoga class and she did some mindfulness at the end. Both of us came out and we were like, "Oh my goodness." I was like, "But did you actually do that one?" And she was like, "Yeah, it was really, really good." And we were blown away. It must just be how she taught it, and combined with the yoga, um, yeah, it worked so much better. And so we've kept going back. So now we do our yoga, and also she does a much gentler yoga, which is much better for me. It's not quite as active, and she focuses a lot on relaxation. And then we do the mindfulness relaxing at the end. And I found it so helpful, and just working the two together has actually, yeah, it's made such a nice combination for us, because I can actually get my mindfulness to work, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that sounds
Yeah.
amazing. I'm so pleased for you. You were able to kind of discover a way
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
it and find a combination that works so well for the both of
Yeah.
you.
It's really good, and it really helps. So actually you come out now actually feeling relaxed, rather than, yeah, my mind chaotic, because I couldn't actually focus on that visualization part.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with
Yeah.
me. Were there any other things that you've tried along the way? You touched on there about
Yeah,
reflexology.
I really like that as well. But it is, again, the sort of relaxing my mind enough to get, you know, to be sort of fully relaxed. My mind still feels very chaotic. And I suppose it depends as well, the practitioner you get. I've tried some where the practitioner has spoken all throughout, to try and help, and then some where it's far better if they don't, speak, and it's just more relaxing and just the odd conversation, but more music and sort of relaxing that way. I do find it easier to get more benefit from the mindfulness when I'm doing it with something else. When I was doing it with the reflexology or with the yoga, I'm just able to get a bit more of a benefit from it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes total
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, yeah, it really does. And I can see how kind of there are so many combinations. And rather than putting that pressure on you that you have to do it a certain
Yeah.
way because that's the way they tell you on the
Yeah.
internet, or that's the way one particular practitioner tells you, the combination is what
Yeah.
works for you. So that's
I think it
fantastic.
took a long time to realize that as well, that you don't just have
Yeah.
to do it a certain way. I mean, I remember I was reading so many books and I was trying so many different things and I was trying to sort things out for my daughter. But it took me a long time to realize that actually, yeah, you don't need to do it the same as everyone else. Now I think about it, it's like I don't know why I didn't think of that in the beginning, that, you don't have to do things in a certain way.
But you
Yeah.
don't, do you? Particularly when you're new to
Yeah.
something, you kind of assume you're trying so
Yes.
hard to do it the right
Yeah.
way that you assume that if you're not having the exact experience they tell you
Yeah.
should be happening, then, and I think sometimes also in a group setting,
Yeah.
you know, I've had occasions where in a group setting it's worked really well because it kind of almost amplifies the effect. You
Yes.
all feel like you're doing
Yeah.
it together. But you're exactly right. If for some reason you feel out of
Yeah.
sync with all of that, it can kind of almost take you the other direction because it does make you quite
Yeah.
anxious that what are they all seeing
Oh,
that I'm
yeah.
not seeing, or they're all experiencing what I'm not experiencing. It must be me that's doing it wrong. Rather than, okay, maybe this isn't the right approach for me, maybe this isn't the right practitioner for me, and maybe this isn't the right setting for me. I mean, I know you have children, so as you said, even that finding a few minutes
Yeah.
to just be able to try and clear yourself from all the chaos that's around you can be quite challenging, to say the
I
least.
think as well, I thought it was something that I was meant to be doing on my own, really quiet. Whereas actually, like you say, when we do it in the end of our yoga in a whole group session, I actually find that easier than trying to find
Right.
those minutes at home on my own and calm my mind. I have found, well, for me, I've found it so much easier at the end of a whole group session. So, whereas I'm sure some people are probably thinking that sounds awful and that they'd rather just be at home practicing it on their own. But for me, yeah, at the end of doing the yoga in a big group where we all lie and relax together, I think just the realization as well that it's okay that I didn't see like the certain visual parts of it. And so I focus in on the other parts. But to be fair, the lady that does our yoga, she doesn't go in too much about like visualization. It's more about what you can hear and obviously your breathing and that has really helped actually, just concentrating on those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess with mindfulness, it is about all the different
Yeah.
senses anyway. So if you are able to kind of take any visualization out of it and just focus on that kind of, what can I smell? What can I
Yeah.
see? What can I taste? Mindful eating. When you go for a walk,
Yeah.
being able to appreciate the surroundings and that kind of thing. And having a look at the leaves on the tree or watching the clouds for a few minutes or something like that, that
Yeah.
can distract your mind from all the, you know, and it doesn't have to be a long practice because I guess, am I right in thinking that could also be an issue if
Yeah.
you're expected to sit there for 20
Yeah.
minutes
Exactly. That
or, do something over a prolonged amount of
yeah.
time when your brain wants to go in different directions.
Exactly, that just sort of sitting still as well, yeah, is near impossible. Well, for me, for my brain, I just find it too difficult to calm down in that space for myself. So that's why I find it easier to do with something. So even like, you said you're out walking and you see the clouds, or I find even if when I'm at home, if I just do a certain stretch, and some breathing, and then it's like, okay, I can focus more then. That's how I found
Yeah.
for me that it's most beneficial. I tried some where, it was like sit more in a darkened room or, take yourself off at the end of the day. And I just haven't been able to get that to work for me. And so it's a bit of a relief to know that, oh, actually, it doesn't have to be exactly like that for everyone. That it can,
Yes.
and that it
Yeah,
can be different.
definitely.
And I think I just, for some reason in my mind, it just was like, well, this is how it's meant to be. I think maybe that's like the neurodiverse brain, especially you think very black and white at times. So I know I do.
So do you find then that you can also kind of bring yourself down to a more relaxed level by doing like little short things during the
Yeah.
day, like just concentrate on
Yeah.
breathing or something like that, or stretching, as opposed to having to do, having to rely on that yoga session with the
Yes.
mindfulness.
Yeah. Before I discovered it with the yoga, I would always be thinking, oh, I won't have time to sit down for 10 minutes, or I won't be able to do that. But then now I have, yeah, kind of realized that, yeah, even if I do certain stretch, I'm in the kitchen and you're just waiting for the kettle to boil, even, or something, or even when I'm at the supermarket and in the checkout, and I hate going to the supermarket, and even then I can stand there and I can sort of do a stretch, and it just gives me, I I can just feel a little bit more relaxed in that moment and be like, no, it's okay. Do some breathing. I can actually get through this point, and then I'll be out of the shop in a minute and I'll be on my way home. Those two just, it has really just changed it for me, and it's made me be able to incorporate it into my life, like how I wanted it to, really, and how I tried for so many years. And so many different practitioners and doctors even saying, at the end of a session, oh, we'll do some mindfulness. And me thinking, I'm just not doing it right. Why is it not, they came out more relaxed than me. And I was like, I'm like, I'm not doing it right.
I know there's something in EFT we call borrowing benefits. And actually, it's where you can be working with one person, but the rest of the group and you as a practitioner can actually benefit from the work
Yeah.
with somebody else. So I could imagine that happening.
I feel like our yoga teacher, actually, I think she takes a lot from the group as well. And it's actually quite nice to see at the end, like she's really grateful, and she like really gets a lot out of the class. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
really nice. And a
Well,
lot of
that's
the other
lovely.
people do as well. And at the end, when they're all like, oh, thank you, that was really nice. And it's really nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't beat that feeling, can
Yeah.
you, when you're in a group of people and everybody's enjoying
Yeah.
themselves and they're feeling good and you can feed off that if you
Mm.
like.
Yeah, it's nice.
So that's fantastic. So is there anything else that you fancy giving a go in terms of wellness, or you found your thing now and you're happy to just
Yeah, I think for now, found this that works. And so I think we're definitely going to stick with this every week. Sometimes a couple of times a week we do. If the same instructor's there, then I'll do the yoga with her. She just obviously um, works well for me and what I take in. So whenever she's teaching, I try and get on her classes.
and it's beautiful that you're able to do that with your daughter as
Yeah,
well and share that experience. And for her to not have to have that feeling of the pressure and I'm not doing it right and everything for
yeah.
herself, she can see there's wellness techniques that she can take into her adult life.
Exactly. It's been nice as well for her because she's been able to see the benefits, and it's really helped her anxiety as well, I think. Obviously, I don't know how much she's using it sort of day to day, but it is nice to see she's really excited about the yoga session. So that's nice.
Yeah. I think some schools
Yeah.
have little programs
Mm.
and things, but it's a shame there's not more coming through. It all
Yeah.
seems to be this focus on kind of exams,
Yeah.
and parents be
Yeah.
aware that children might feel anxious around
Yeah.
exams, but actually, especially in this world, so many kind of things that could bring on feelings of anxiety or other issues that actually it feels like that there should be some kind of teaching
Yeah.
or some kind of session at the start of the school day or
Well,
at lunchtime or something that would help them kind of rebalance and get to a calmer.
last year, my youngest, they would start their day with the children's yoga. Um, Yeah, and they'd
Wow.
have it on the big screen. And so actually when I was doing some poses at home, she was saying to me, "Oh, I've done that one. I've done that one." And it was really nice. And so
Oh,
we've
that's
been,
so
yeah, and
lovely.
I loved that. And I actually spoke to them about it and I said, "I love it that you do that." Because whilst they'd be waiting in the morning, like, children be coming in and out, and they'd have a little bit more of like a fluid structure to the day. It wouldn't be, like come in, sit down. It was sort of a bit more relaxed. And they'd all be starting their morning with like the children's yoga. And it was lovely. And she absolutely loves it. And so if I do some of an evening, she'll start doing the poses with me. And they'll both ask me, they'll be like, "What poses did you do today, mummy? What poses did you do? Show me this one, show me that one." Yeah. And it's really good. So some schools, I think, must be doing it somewhere. I don't think they've done it this year, so it might not be a regular thing in the class she's in now, but they definitely have done at some point, and it really helped her. And I think it's definitely should be done in more schools. I was at a school a couple of weeks ago, and I did speak to one of the teachers, and they were saying that they wanted to incorporate it into PE, and that was sort of primary school age. I think it could help, but it would definitely help secondary school, especially round sort of exam
Yes.
time.
Kind of all the time as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
It would be lovely to see it more, yeah, introduced in more
yeah,
ways. And I guess it as we become more and more aware of mental
mm,
health, hopefully funding and time is always an issue, isn't
yeah,
it, with schools? But hopefully it's on somebody's list somewhere to look into. And in the meantime, um, we can help by doing exactly what you're doing and introducing your children
y-
to it at home or in classes and making it a family activity
yeah.
as well, which is
Well, my young
fantastic. And
ones love it, and to be fair, they're far more flexible than I am, so they're like they're enjoying it because they can do all the poses, and I'm just like and stretches, and I'm like just making it look like I
I'm
am.
I'm with you.
Yes.
Yeah. What happens to flexibility when
Oh,
we get older?
I know, mine's gone. I'm just like, trying as hard as I can.
But that's another thing, isn't it, with yoga? It's so
Yeah,
lovely that you've got the kind of two elements. You've got the physical
yeah.
as well as the mental,
Mm.
both incorporated. So have you seen a benefit from the physical perspective as
Yeah,
well?
definitely, definitely. And every week I've been able to do more and more. And also, again, I've realize that I don't need to be doing it all the same as everyone else. So what I found really helpful with this instructor as well is that she'll give multiple options for like poses and stretches. So it'll be like, if you can't do this, if you can't stretch this much, then you can do this, or you can do this, or you can stay in this position. Knowing that I don't have to do it the same as everyone else has really helped me. So I'll have some blocks and I'll have the strap. And that has helped me to be able to realize, oh, actually, I don't have to be doing it, exactly the same, but I can still get the benefits from it. This instructor obviously has been really great. I've definitely been able to regulate my breathing more and doing the stretches correctly, on your inhale, exhale. And that has really helped as well. And that's helped me to relax more. So it's been really good.
I love that. So it sounds like it's very important to find the right instructor.
She was really, really good. She's very not strict, but sort of like very straightforward. Like, you do this, this, this.
And I guess that speaks to you as well
Yeah,
because you know exactly what you're supposed to be
exactly. She
doing.
was very, yeah, yeah, that was it. She really sort of spoke through the the stretches and the poses. Because normally I'd have to be really following and looking all the time at what the instructor was doing. Whereas I could concentrate on the pose and the stretches because she actually talked through what you should be doing. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, actually, I don't need to be then just constantly looking and missing out on doing all the stretches because I'm constantly wondering what they're doing. She just talked it all through. And I think, well, for me, it just really resonated. And I was like, oh, this is great. I really understand what she's on about. And it just worked.
Yeah. So I think there's some really powerful messages that you've discussed today, Carly. So that's been fantastic. Persevere.
Yeah.
Don't assume you're doing something wrong, and how you can really adapt the techniques or, find the right technique that works for you. Being aware of
Yeah.
yourself, your body, how you're feeling. That's been fantastic to hear. And I'm really pleased
Thank
for you in your journey that you found some wellness
you.
techniques that have worked so well. I know, Carly, that from a neurodiversity perspective, it's an area that's very important to you, and you do talks, and you even have some products to help children, don't you?
Yes. So I have written some children's stories, so sort of short stories, picture books about diversity. So specifically, my two books, one is called I'm Autistic Too, and one is called I Have ADHD Too. And they're actually about a parent and their child who both have either ADHD or are both autistic, and how they're navigating the world together, and how they both obviously have similar experiences because they have the same diagnosis, but they obviously navigate the world slightly different because, adults have got to deal with all the adulting we've got to deal with and working and everything and, paying bills. And whereas children, they'll deal with it. They've got their friends or been at school and things like that. But it's about them being the same, but experiencing things slightly different. But they're very sort of child friendly, easy to read books, probably around primary school age. It's been really important for me and my children, for our experiences, for me to write those and to help them as well. And so I do go into schools and talk about my books and obviously do a little presentation and workshops to sort of try and help the children realize that, yeah, they're not alone, and that they can identify it in themselves and their friends and their family, and it just makes them feel less alone, and that you don't have to do things in such a, black and white way.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, amazing. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Well, if there's any listeners who would be interested in those books or contacting Carly about talks, then I'll pop her details in the show notes. And thank you so much for today's chat. I really enjoyed it. And I think that, again, there were some really useful messages that wellness techniques are what you make
Yeah,
them. And sometimes it just takes a bit of perseverance to find the right
yeah.
one, but not to give up.
Yes.
And and when you hit on that right thing, it can make such a huge difference to your
Yeah.
life and potentially the life of your
Yeah,
family.
definitely,
Right.
definitely. I think especially, neurodiverse brain as well. You're always wanting to go chop to something else. So it doesn't work. So I must try. It must be something else. It must be something else. But it has really helped for us that we found that thing that, has been so beneficial. And so hopefully that can help some of your listeners as well. And they realize that it's not them if they can't visualize anything. It's just, it's not their fault. They're not doing it wrong.
Yeah, yeah. What a perfect message to end on. So thank you so much,
Thank
Carly.
you.
I want to thank Carly for her openness in sharing her experiences today. This conversation highlights something so important. Wellness techniques aren't one size fits all, and there's nothing wrong with you if traditional approaches don't work. Sometimes it takes perseverance to find the right combination, but when you do, it can transform not just your life, but your family's too. If you'd like to learn more about Carly's work, including her children's books, I'm Autistic Too and I Have ADHD Too, or her talks on neurodiversity for schools, you can find her details in the show notes. Remember, as Carly so perfectly put it, if you can't visualise, it's not your fault. You're not doing it wrong. It might just mean you haven't found your right approach yet. Until next time, I'm Sarah, and remember, there's many paths to wellness, and sometimes it's about finding what works for you.